Hello seniors, this is the quick YouTube video for reading about commentary in Scene 1 and Scene 2 of A Streetcar Named Desire. So the PowerPoint that you will have just taken notes on will look like this one. It's the purple one. And I just want to stamp before I go into my teacher model the commentary thinking steps. The first thing you need to do when you're looking for commentary is you have to identify the key elements that are happening in the text and decide if there's positive or negative traits associated with those key elements and if there's conflict happening between them. And once you've identified positive, negative traits and conflict, then you can start zooming out and thinking about what social commentary the author is trying to make. Just stamping again, social commentary is an opinion or explanation about situations that can be applied to real life, usually points out a problem, and makes the reader want to choose a side in the situation. It's also very common in literature for the reader to disagree with the author about what side the author thinks is the right side versus what side the reader thinks is the right side. And this definitely can happen in A Streetcar Named Desire because of its historical context and the culture that it was written in. So I've included an additional handout that says Teacher Model. If you need to open that up and reference it just so you can see what I'm saying in more detail, go ahead and open that up if you need. But I'm going to split my screen between the text of A Streetcar Named Desire and my highlighting, and then this Word document in Google here. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to look at the characters or elements that are present in the text. And I'm going to start in Scene 1. And I'm going to think about positive, negative, and neutral traits that I can associate with those things. The three easiest characters to analyze are going to be the three main characters in the play right now, Blanche, Stella, and Stanley. So I'm going to leave those open for you to look at your own positive and negative traits. And instead, I'm going to actually analyze the city of New Orleans, the setting of the play. So if you watched the video where I read and annotated the first page of the play that sets the setting, you know that this play is happening, it's set in New Orleans, and it's set in the 1950s. There are a few things about this city that the author takes a lot of care to emphasize and put positive emphasis on. He says that this city has a certain charm, a very raffish charm, so both positive and negative elements in it. Positive and negative elements. So one of the positive elements that the author, Mr. Tennessee Williams, takes particular detail in stamping and talking about is the music that fills the entire city of New Orleans. He describes it as a blue piano, and he gives credit for this blue piano and the power of it to the African American community that lives in the city. He also stamps how in the building where Stella and Stanley live, both a white woman and an African American woman sit next to each other and are having an equal conversation. They both live in this neighborhood and they're neighbors for each other. And this is something that is being shown with a positive emphasis. The negative or perhaps neutral emphasis for this neighborhood would be the train tracks, showing that it's industrial and that it's near warehouses. So you can see over here in my thought catcher, I put down that the city of New Orleans is cultural and cosmopolitan, using the words that he used. It's charming, and it's filled with color and music, this blue piano. And then it also has the industrial blue-collar workforce in it. It's by train tracks. The house has been divided from a one-family house into two separate apartments, and there are warehouses near it and the river. So I've got positive and negative traits. Now I have to think about if there are any conflicts with this setting or any conflicts with this neighborhood that happened in the text. And from when we went and we read about Blanche, and when she first shows up in this neighborhood, she is incongruous. It means that she does not fit in with this setting. There's a conflict happening there. She's dressed all in white. She's showing off very visible signs of wealth. And she's shocked and surprised that her sister lives in this city and in this part of town in the city. And so I choose to interpret this. Blanche is an old South person. Her family, she reveals, used to own a plantation, and she is put into conflict with this beautiful city of New Orleans and the beautiful culture of New Orleans. She's revealed to be judgmental, and she offends the community that's around her. So what then I have to decide as a reader is, do I think that the author is on Blanche's side, or do I think the author is on New Orleans' side? Part of deciding that, if I go back to my thinking steps in my PowerPoint, is I have to think about who is shown negatively and who is shown positively, and what element has more power and what element is denied power. And if I go back and I think about Blanche and Blanche's situation right now, as it's set up in scene 1, she's recently lost her home and she's come to stay with her sister. And even though she's judgmental and she offends her sister and her sister's landlord, she still is asking for help. She doesn't have power in this situation. The city of New Orleans is stronger and it has a stronger sense of community as well. Blanche is alone and Blanche is asking for help, but Stella and Eunice's neighbors and Stella all get along. Stella has a strong community that's supporting her in the city of New Orleans. So I would argue that the author is saying that New Orleans has something good going on for it, something that's stronger than the judgmental element from Blanche and stronger than Blanche's history on a plantation. So if I was to turn this into an opinion or a commentary, as you can see here, I've highlighted it and my evidence for it. New Orleans is beautiful and complex because of its African American culture and racial diversity. The white classist attitudes of the South do not belong in this diverse city and are unwelcome. Blanche is a symbol or a representative of this white classist attitude that would want to judge the city for its culture. The blue piano and the raffish charms are the things that make the city happy and cultural. They're created and protected by that rich African American culture. Even its poor neighborhoods are, and this is a quote from the text, unlike other American cities due to its, quote, cosmopolitan nature that allows for the desegregated housing we see with Eunice and her neighbor. We also see that Eunice and eventually Stella and Stanley are all offended and made defensive by Blanche's attitude of wealth and superiority. And we have to remember that Blanche's attitude of wealth is fake. She's actually penniless and she's come to ask her sister for a place to live. Your next step from here on is to start thinking about the positive and negative qualities of Blanche, Stella, and Stanley, and start thinking about what conflicts you saw happening between these three characters in scene 2. There's multiple types of commentary that could be happening, and I've included in my chart a couple topics and space for you to add more in. You can use my evidence to help you form your opinions, but also feel free to add extra evidence in. Your exit ticket is going to be to write a statement on what commentary you think Williams is developing in scene 1 and scene 2. It should have a claim, and the claim is your opinion. And you should have at least 2 pieces of text evidence that then show how this type of social commentary exists in the text. And then explain what you think is important about the evidence you selected.